going on, guys? Robert here once again, Blazing Press Channel on YouTube, and we're breaking down the news once again. It looks like things have gone from bad to worse. If it's possible for going from bad to worse, maybe it's like jumping out of the pan and into the fire. That's kind of what I think is happening. I think we're really getting close now to the fire of war. And what comes out of the fire? Well, then you're going to have the fog, because everyone's going to be in a state of disbelief. They've been hearing about this for such a long time, and now it's just seeming like it's right here on our doorstep. And there's a lot of indicators right now that are looking like things are inching very close to something kinetic. And last-minute diplomatic flurry of diplomacy, if you will, between the players in the background, the higher-ups, because they have to have their positions secure before all hell breaks loose. And that's exactly what's just happened inside of Russia with our little diplomatic mission that failed miserably. Well, it looks like it from outward, analysis. Businessmen going over there to talk to Putin, Jared Kushner and Witkoff, just squaring away our position, I think, before everything is unleashed. I think that's what's about to happen. Now, what's crazy is that if you look at all the news that's surrounding this event, it's an orchestrated, unfolding, global reorganization. It's a reorganizing of the globe itself. I guess in a certain way you could say maybe it's a microcosm, or it's the macro. If there is a word, macrocosm, but the microcosm is Ukraine and how they're divvying up Ukraine. And at the same time, you got a lot of kicking and screaming going on in Europe. And I don't think the U.S. wants what's happening there either. But the Russians have taken over so much territory, and they're not going to give an inch. They're not giving a budge. And I think they realize that America is on its last leg economically, because our debt bomb is going off right now. Our debt bomb, if you don't see it in your own pocketbook, you're listening to all the hopium and you think there's a brighter tomorrow and a golden age. That's because you're listening to Trump. And Trump is a bloviator, if you haven't realized that yet. He's someone that is like a ShamWow salesman. If you haven't figured out his background yet, and you haven't listened to our analysis of his MO. I mean, he's got the background of that positive thinking, positive confession movement, going all the way back to his pastor of his childhood, who was none other than Norman Vincent Peale. And if you don't know who Norman Vincent Peale is, he's basically a protege of Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, the handbook for all salesmen and all those who are it's an occult book, really, if you really look at it. And it's all about hopium. It's all about telling exaggerated untruths that are just small little white lies that build up people's confidence and give them some kind of hope to hold on to, even though it's not real. But this is Trump's way of dealing with things. That's why a lot of times countries are like, we have no idea what he's talking about. He's making statements in the news that things are all better, that they've had some kind of an agreement and there's some kind of deal that's in the works. And they're like, what? We didn't make no deal. This has happened on a number of occasions where heads of state have come out and said they have no idea what Trump's talking about. Now, you could say that's disinformation or that's just a art of war. I don't know. 3D chess. You can tell me whatever you think. But I'll just tell you this. We are inching ever so close to the trigger, which I believe is Venezuela, potentially, because the interests of China and also of Russia inside of Venezuela is huge. Not to mention the fact that they've got a very big beachhead already established right here in the Western Hemisphere. And you think Trump's going to unravel all that all of a sudden by a kinetic war? Are we going to send in troops on the ground, or are we just going to bomb them into oblivion? Putin made a statement yesterday. I believe it was yesterday, in response to NATO's uptick in rhetoric of going kinetic with Russia. We're talking about a first strike, preemptive strike. This is what the heads of NATO are talking about now. We're talking about the head of the NATO, admiral. These are admirals. These are people that are in the top echelons of NATO that are talking about initiating a first strike against Russia now because they're desperate. There's a desperation that has taken over NATO at this point. Why do you think we sent our envoys over there, Kushner and Witkoff, to get what? What did they get from this? Nothing. Have you looked at Trump lately and how haggard he looks and how old he looks, how much weight he has lost, how he can't even keep his eyes open in the middle of a meeting? I'm just telling you guys, Trump does not look good at all. And I have a feeling that we are on the brink of seeing, and Trump's got a big ego. Even in spite of the fact that he's not all there, his ego will push some buttons. I have no doubt about it. And let the cards fall where they may, he's going to try to take down as much as he can if this is where it's going. Because I think that they're literally this close to doing something in Venezuela. Now, Russia and China have stated that they are going to be right there, and it better not happen because China is now moving hundreds of its naval vessels in a demonstration and a show of power and force. That's what they've just done in the last 24 hours. Russia is making so many gains right now. It's incredible what Russia is doing right now and how far they've pushed into Ukraine. And they are not going to give up an inch. And we're basically looking like we're begging for some kind of resolution now, which is not going to come according to what our statements have been in actually what we want to negotiate. Putin hasn't even let up one bit on what he initially stated that he wanted, and he's still not going to. And I think now that they're realizing that this is going down the way it is, maybe Putin will move further in and go into Europe. Maybe this is why Europe is preparing for war and battening down the hatchets and building bunkers and getting ready prepared for global World War III. Maybe that's why they're doing this. And they're warning all their citizens. They've been doing this for a few months now. So you got China, you got Russia, and then on top of that, all the movement right now in the Middle East. Hezbollah is moving hugely right now. They're all orchestrating. They're being orchestrated. This is probably Israel's nightmare. Kushner was involved in this diplomatic negotiation for a reason, because the Israelis need to know where to put their money. They need to know where to put their investments. When all this hits the fan, everybody that has power needs to make sure that they're safely secure, because they know Russia's going to come out on top of all this, probably China, right there along with them, because they're allies. Everybody's allies right now. And I don't think that we have any strength or they're just placating us right now. And I'm going to tell you what, America's going into internal chaos, socially and civil unrest, just to kind of keep us all occupied without, I just think that this is where it's going. So I want you to listen to some commentary here and the things that I've been looking at. And I just want to kind of give you a little heads up on this. Very, very brief kind of warning that I think is in order. Let's just go through some news first, then I'm going to show you guys a few things. All right, this is a article from The Telegraph. This just happened, I guess. Was that today? Military drones were flying very close to Zelensky's plane as it approached Dublin, which they say could have shot down his plane or have affected him or took him out. This was dated today. Four military drones breached a no-fly zone and flew toward Zelensky's plane before it landed at Dublin Airport on Monday. Unidentified UAVs. then orbited around the Irish Navy vessel that had secretly been deployed in the Irish Sea. Maybe this is a warning. Look at how close we can get to you. You don't even know what kind of technology we have. Is it alien? Is it high tech? Is it something you don't know about? What is it? It's zooming around your plane. We could shoot you down at any second, maybe. Who knows? Or maybe they're benevolent aliens coming to save us from ourselves. But I don't know. This was very strange. Here we have China deploying a large number of naval vessels and Coast Guard vessels across East Asian waters. At one point, more than 100 in the largest maritime show of force to date, according to 4 sources and intelligence reports reviewed by Reuters. General Mike Flynn, if you don't know who General Mike Flynn is, massive breaking news. All Americans must grasp the gravity of this moment and what this deposition, like letter below, means for the future of our republic. It is that severe of a warning. And I posted the letter on our Telegram page, and this is basically a letter from a high-level intelligence military defector out of Venezuela. I believe he's in one of our prisons. I'm not exactly sure if he's in prison here, but he's basically warning the American people and the world of what Venezuela is capable of doing and what they have been doing for the last 20 years in trying to undermine and attack the U.S. from within, compromising even people that are in our government, and what they are doing with the supposed drug trafficking and how they're working with Hezbollah. I told you they were working with Hezbollah, remember? I told you guys that there was cartels working with Hezbollah to build tunnels under our border, not just for drugs, but now for human personnel, and what that means, human personnel, to come in through these tunnels, because Hezbollah's expert in they've got the technique of building tunnels down pat. And they were contracting with the cartels for the last 20 years now to build these tunnels for their drugs. As for payment for their war on Israel, right? So they would get lots of cartel drug money to wage a war on Israel. And in turn, the cartels would get their tunnels. Now, this is something that's been going on for quite some time, but this letter, I don't know if you saw this. This letter, I don't know if he has it here. I have it actually on the Telegram page. So it says, we cannot allow China or Russia or major international Islamic terrorist networks to our own beachfront property off of our southern border. Now, I want you to understand, too, a lot of this could be, information on the eve of war to get everybody all riled up and rallying behind the government. This is what this very well could be. In a preparation for the moment of actual war, we have to have the right mindset as the population begins to realize what's going on. Trump's actions to date, and if you don't know who General Mike Flynn is, you need to understand where he's coming from. Trump's actions to date have been sound, but given this new information, our POTUS must do some new soul searching with key members of his team. This blockbuster op-ed comes from a career spy at the top of the Venezuelan regime, where he served as the former head of military intelligence and the National Assembly for nearly a decade. His name is General Hugo Carvajal Barrios. In it, he describes how U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez, which was before Maduro, to remain in power. He also describes how the election software Smartmatic, developed in Venezuela, is used to alter elections. And this is what they're going to be blaming the stolen election on from Trump, right? The whole stolen election thing came from these supposed machines that were being used in our elections. This technology was later exported abroad, including the United States. This letter is a strategic warning from a man who spent decades inside the command structure of a hostile foreign power. He confirms what many of us have stated repeatedly. The Maduro regime functions as a fully integrated narco-terrorist apparatus conducting an unconventional campaign inside of and against the United States of America. He details how Venezuela vaporized, or I'm sorry, they're going to be vaporized. I don't know, maybe not. He details how Venezuela weaponized cocaine in coordinated operations with FARC and ELN, Cuban intelligence, and Hezbollah. How it built and exported violent criminal networks like Trendy Aragua into the United States. How its intelligence services infiltrated American institutions for more than 20 years. And how Smartmatic was developed to, quote, keep the regime in power forever. And that was not just Venezuela's regime, but also to influence other elections, supposedly. He also goes on to state how President Trump's policies were acts of essential national defense and that he is prepared to provide further classified details. We as Americans must demand more transparency about the role of the rogue deep state elements inside of our own national security system who have been or are currently protecting the Venezuelan regime and have been for decades. Now, I want to show you the letter. This is the letter. It came out in the Dallas Express. So this is the Dallas Express News. Basically, it goes like this. This is coming from, and he'll say his name here, and this is, I believe he's in a prison. I believe he's in prison, if I'm not mistaken. He says, "Dear Mr. President Trump and the people of the United States, my name is Hugo Carvajal Barrios. For many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuelan regime. I was a 3-star general trusted by both Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, and served as director of military intelligence and a deputy in the National Assembly. Today, I sit in an American prison because I voluntarily pled guilty to the crimes charged against me, a narco-terrorism conspiracy. I write to atone by telling you the full truth so that the United States can protect itself from the dangers I witnessed for so many years. I publicly broke with the Maduro regime in 2017 and fled my country, knowing that I faced criminal charges in the United States. In doing so, I became their enemy. Knowing the risks, I acted with the strongest conviction to dismantle Maduro's crime or criminal regime and bring freedom to my country. Today, I see the need to address the American people about the reality of what the Venezuelan regime truly is, and why President Trump's policies are not only correct, but absolutely necessary to the United States' national security. Number 1, narco-terrorism. I personally witnessed how Hugo Chavez's government became a criminal organization that is now run by Nicolas Maduro and also Diosdado Cabello and other senior regime officials. The purpose of this organization, now known as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States. The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption, nor just the work of independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime against the United States. This plan was suggested by the Cuban regime to Chavez in the mid-2000s and has been successfully executed with the help of FARC and ELN, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and impunity for those terrorist organizations to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. Trendy Agua I was present when decisions were made to organize and weaponize criminal gangs across Venezuela to protect the regime. Among them, the group known as Tren de Agua. And then he goes on to say Chavez ordered the recruitment of criminal leaders inside and outside prisons to defend the revolution in exchange for impunity. After Chavez died, Maduro expanded the strategy by exporting criminality and chaos abroad to target Venezuelan political exiles and artificially reduce crime statistics within Venezuela. So I guess he's saying they sent them out of the prisons, they sent them to the United States. It lowered the crime statistics as well within Venezuela. And they also were targeting, I guess, Venezuelan exiles, maybe dissidents. These gang leaders were instructed to send thousands of members out of the country. This was coordinated through the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Prisons, the National Guard, and National Police Forces. Tren de Aragua became the most effective and fastest growing. When the Biden-Harris open border policy became widely known, they seized the opportunity to send these operatives into the United States. They now have obedient, armed personnel on American soil. To finance their operations, they were especially instructed to continue kidnapping, extorting, and killing. Every crime they commit on your soil is an act ordered by the regime of Venezuela. Number 3, counterintelligence and espionage against the United States. I was present when Russian intelligence came to Caracas to propose to Hugo Chavez the taping of submarine internet cables, or the tapping of submarine internet cables that connect most of South America and the Caribbean islands with the United States for the purpose of penetrating United States government communications. So I guess they tapped them. I don't know how they would do that, but in 2015, I warned Maduro, listen to this, that allowing Russian intelligence to build and run a secret listening post on Lauracia Island would one day invite American bombs. He ignored me. For 20 years, the Venezuelan regime sent spies into your country. Many are still here or there, some disguised as members of the Venezuelan opposition. Cuban intelligence showed me their networks inside your naval bases on the East Coast. They bragged about having sent thousands of spies over decades, some now career politicians. U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez and Maduro in remaining in power. These Americans acted as spies for Cuba and Venezuela, and some remain active to this day. Smartmatic and your elections. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help keep the regime stay in power forever. I know this because I placed the head of the IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and he reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. The technology was later exported abroad, including the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationship with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. I do not claim that every election is stolen, but I state with certainty that elections can be rigged with the software, and this has been used to do so. People of the United States, make no mistake about the threat posed by allowing a narco-terrorist organization to roam freely in the Caribbean and throughout Latin America, doing everything possible to harm American the American people, to finance anti-Americanism across the continent, and to facilitate the operation of other terrorist organizations and enemies of the United States within Venezuela and now within your borders. The regime I served is not merely hostile, it is at war with you, using drugs, gangs, espionage, and even your own democratic processes as weapons. President Trump's policies against the Maduro criminal regime are not just justified, but necessary and proportionate to the threat. He may even be underestimating what the regime is prepared to do to hold on to power. They have contingency plans for every extreme scenario to ensure they never relinquish control. I absolutely support President Trump's policy towards Venezuela because it is in itself defense. And he is acting based on the truth. I remain ready to provide additional details about these matters to the United States government. Hugo Carvajal Barrios, the United States of America, dated December 2nd. So that was 2 days ago. Well, what do you make of that? To me, that is preparation. They're releasing this information. And I say they, I'm talking about this was the time the government here in the United States wanted this to get out, so that you would have the mindset to say, yes, we must go to war, not just with Venezuela, but also with Hezbollah, because that's what's going on right now. There's an uptick in Hezbollah activity right now. Did you see that? Just today, it's all over. They're putting out videos now once again in preparation. They only do this when they go to war. Hezbollah doesn't put out these propaganda videos except when they're actively engaged. And in the last day or so, they've been putting out these videos. And they haven't had them out for, a year now since the ceasefire? I don't know how long the ceasefire's been. But with Hezbollah, it's been quite a while. So you've got Hezbollah now active. You've got huge bombing campaigns from the Israelis going into Lebanon. Not only that, but also into Syria and possibly even into Iraq, because Iraq's being supposedly influenced hugely by Iran. And I wouldn't doubt that there's not going to be something going down with Iran. So you've got Hezbollah, you've got Russia, and now we're saying Russia is behind it because they were also involved in these meetings with Cuba, trying to supposedly undermine our system of government and preparing for. And I believe that they're just waiting right now for the collapse of the U.S. because the debt bomb is going off. Now, let's just go through a few more things before I show you this other video. Also, they're waiting for. See, Trump said the other day, we're going to start land strikes. This was about, 2 or 3 days ago that he said this? Now, they're just posting this yesterday, but this was stated, I think, 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was 3 days ago. But Mr. Bean doesn't know how long is it going to take. He's still waiting, Mr. Bean. Okay. Is it about black gold, Texas tea? The old Jed was shooting at some food, but up come a bubbling crude. Black gold, that is, Texas tea. Well, they're also saying that Colombia is very worried right now because Trump made statements about other countries and including Colombia. Look at what the Colombian president is now saying. Colombian president is now stating that he's been going after these drug making facilities within his own country, and he's already dismantled 18,000, and that he invites President Trump to come over to see and watch him destroy these drug producing facilities. He says there's a couple of them that they destroy every day. But listen to what he says. So President Gustavo Petro invited President Trump to visit his country and participate in the destruction of cocaine laboratories after Trump said any country trafficking drugs into the United States would be attacked, not just Venezuela. Trump issued this warning during a cabinet meeting on Tuesday at the White House, where he singled out Colombia for producing cocaine and selling it to the United States. Listen to what he says. Listen to what the president of Colombia says. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, this is Trump, is making cocaine. Really? You've been hearing that, huh? How long have you been hearing that, Trump? That's been going on for decades. That's like known for like at least 40 years or 50 years. They have cocaine manufacturing plants. Really? He says, okay. And they sell us their cocaine. Anybody that's doing that and selling into our country is subject to attack, he said. Petro responded swiftly to Trump in a post on social media, pointing out that his government has destroyed 18,400 cocaine laboratories without missiles. He said, come to Colombia, Mr. Trump. Come to me, and I will show you how they are destroyed. One laboratory every 40 minutes. Oh, that's one laboratory every 40 minutes. Okay. To prevent cocaine from reaching the U.S. That's a lot of laboratories. Now listen to what he also said. He made a threat to the United States as well. Petro also warned against threatening Colombia's sovereignty, which he said was a declaration of war that will awaken a jaguar. Awaken a jaguar. Do not damage 2 centuries of diplomatic relations. You have already slandered me. Do not continue down that path, Petro said, apparently referring to Trump's previous public assertions that the Colombian leader was involved in the drug trade. If there is a country that has helped stop thousands of tons of cocaine so that North Americans do not consume it, it is Colombia, Petro added. Gustavo Petro, right here. This is his tweet. Now we're gonna scoot over to the video that I wanted to show you guys here really quickly. Actually, this is not the video, but I wanted to show you some video footage of Putin meeting with India's Modi. This just happened 11 hours ago. But look at how the flurry of diplomatic activity is happening. These are the BRICS, right? This is the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. These are the main hub countries that make up the BRICS. But look at Putin. I guess they're preparing for the demise of America because it doesn't look like the red carpet is being rolled out for Trump like it was in 2016 in India. Do you remember that? It made a big hoopla for Trump in a huge stadium full of Indians cheering, remember? And Modi rolled out the red carpet. That hasn't happened. It looks to me like Modi is now making very good friends with Russia, and he's been doing this quite often. I've noticed this happening at least a few times since Trump's been in office. And this just happened once again. So you got to kind of wonder what's going on there. We also have a live feed right directly from Venezuela if anything does start happening. And we will go to that. But I wanted to get into that one bit of content. How close are we to the brink of a global war? This is a conversation that was very interesting. I think you might want to listen to this. Let's take a listen to this, just a little bit of it. If you don't know who Napolitano is, he used to be a Fox News contributor, and he's a very learned man. I think it's good that he has this type of commentary to balance out what we always hear is propaganda all over the mainstream. But it's good to hear both sides anyway, right? So listen to what he has to say. And he's talking to somebody that knows people that are high-level NATO military officials and whatever their cabinet is, or they have special groups that are high-level NATO. He knows these people. So just listen to what he has to say.
Or the governments across Europe, including the Italian government here in Rome, they don't care. And obviously, they don't even question the legality of what's going on. Public opinion is a completely different story. I am in Italy for almost a week now. It's a tour of my latest book, which is called The Multipolar Century, by the way, which is released in a global premiere in Italy.
All right, let me find the place where I was at here. Hold on. Let me just get to the gist of it.
All the way from that Dutch Gouda that poses as Secretary General, Tutti Frutti or Rudy, to military commanders everywhere, France, Germany. Where's the German army? We haven't seen it yet. And France. But the first time that there is a direct reference to the possibility of a preemptive attack, this, the response by Dmitry Medvedev, which was with the usual Medvedev sense of humor, was okay. There will be a response, but after that, there will be no Europe to negotiate with.
Here's what President Putin, I don't know if he had in mind what this Italian admiral said, but here's what he said to Europe and about Europe before he spent 5 hours, probably wasted time, but I'll ask you about that in a minute. 5 hours with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Chris, cut number 12.
We are not planning to go to war with Europe. I've said that 100 times already. But if Europe suddenly wants to go to war with us and starts it, we are ready right now. There can be no doubt about that. The only question is, in what way? If Europe suddenly starts a war with us, I think it will be over very quickly. This isn't Ukraine. With Ukraine, we're acting in a surgical, careful manner, right? So that, well, you get it, right?
Confident.
I love the sense of humor of saying literally, I think it will be over very quickly.
So what do you think he's talking about? He's either talking about Oreshniks or nuclear weapons.
Yes, he's talking basically about Oreshniks, Judge, because even if it is a preemptive attack, Moscow would think carefully about they don't need to use nuclear weapons because they have all the hypersonics that matter. And if you launch the hypersonics surgically against NATO bases could be Ramstein, one of them, in Poland, even Sigonella here in Italy, they can accomplish everything that they want in a matter of minutes. So Russia doesn't need nuclear weapons, but the response will be devastating against these centers of command. But the fact that NATO desperation is leading their military commanders and even the Secretary General to keep doubling down on provocations, it only reveals their desperation and, of course, their way of trying to influence the Russians once again about those 5 hours in Moscow. They don't have a say, not even in a mini table on the side, not to mention the main table.
I mean, why would Putin even care what the Europeans think? Because Donald Trump doesn't care what the Europeans think. The only one who cares what the Europeans think appears to be Zelensky. So you have no Sergei Lavrov there. You have no Marco Rubio there. You do have President Putin there. And then you got these two characters who may be able to put together real estate deals, but they have no diplomatic experience. They have very little knowledge of the history of these things. And President Putin gives them 5 hours?
Well, if we follow what Ushakov, which is one of the official negotiators, and he was at the table during the 5 hours, said afterwards, he said, there will be no leaks, and this was mutually agreed by us and the Americans. Obviously, there will be some leaks coming from the American side. There will be no leaks coming from Russia. So we don't know the substance of the conversation. What we know is that there was a lot of talk about the 28 points that became 19, or maybe even less, but nothing substantial. And if you go through what Ushakov said, he was basically saying that this was a nothing burger. But maybe this could be the beginning of further conversations. We'll keep talking to the other side, etc. Diplomatic language to say, okay, we agree to disagree. And he said, many of the points we forcefully cannot accept. And the craziest thing is that the victors delineate the terms at the end of a war. The United States is not a victor, much less the criminal organization, Russian terminology by President Putin, in Kiev. So what Trump envoys are trying to achieve is some sort of concessions from the Russian side. There will be no concessions. The conditions and the stipulations come from June last year by Putin himself, and they won't deviate from that. NATO, no NATO for Ukraine, demilitarization, elections, immediate elections, a government in Kiev that won't be completely Russophobes, and of course, later on, the denazification of this criminal organization and elite, which is going to take at least 2 generations. But it's starting now. The demilitarization of Ukraine. Yes, please.
I know you're in Italy, but are you able to sense any resignation on the part of the Ukrainians to the realistic likelihood that the land now occupied by the Russian military is gone forever?
No resignation, because once again, don't forget, we are dealing with a criminal organization. Criminal organizations, by definitions, don't resign themselves to anything, only if they have a bullet in their heads. Which figuratively and geopolitically and militarily they have, but they won't ever admit it, especially because they still count on the support of NATO Secretary General, generals all across NATO stand, politicians, of course, all across Europe, who still believe that if we keep feeding Ukraine with weapons that will be American weapons paid in euros that we don't have in the first place, they can still have a chance of salvaging Plan A. And there was never a Plan B. We have been discussing this here in among my interlocutors, there are former high-level special forces, former high-level intelligence, a former treasury ministry. So people who know the Italian government from the inside out, in fact, who had access to everything. And now they can, have a critical point of view, not only about Italy, but about how NATO works. And, who really issues the orders. And at the same time, they have fabulous, I would say, alternative interpretations of the current karaoke that involved the Kremlin this week. What are
those alternate interpretations?
I'm sorry?
What are those alternate
I will give you one of them, Judge, which is absolutely fascinating because I have not seen that anywhere else. Why Jared Kushner was part of the mini 2 American delegation. It's a matter of salvaging international capital in the hands of the Zionist Axis trying to find a secure place to invest. China, impossible. Europe, dead. So why not try Russia? So they are trying to place these funds in Russia. Nobody in Europe is analyzing it this way. This is something that we should try to get deeper into it. Obviously, we won't get anything out of Kushner himself, of course. But maybe some indiscretions can come from the international financial system, some of those actors, which, by the way, at the same time, they are already discussing the next pandemic. So that tells us something, that the next pandemic, Judge, and among them, Larry Fink and Bill Gates, they're already talking opening about the possibility of the next pandemic, like right around the corner in 2026. So all this is interconnected. Movement of capital, movement of total control, who's going to control what, where to place the money, and of course, who can be, which place should be ideal to park untold zillions of funds. They are not safe anymore because of the collapse, little by little, of American debt and the American empire as a whole. So the Russian role in all that, it's still fuzzy.
See, they're preparing for the collapse of the U.S. That this is what this is all about. The European West is going down. I mean, this is what's going to precipitate the sudden destruction. You know, when the Bible says, when they keep saying peace, peace, and security, peace and security, behold, sudden destruction comes upon them like a woman in travail, and they will not escape. Well, this is what we're hearing right now. We're hearing all of this talk of peace, and who is the one that's the originator of this whole communication of peace? Well, it's the chairman of the board of peace himself. The one who claims he will bring eternal peace, who claims that he will stop the prophet's words from coming to pass, that the end of the world will take place in the Middle East. He said he will not allow that to happen. He will not let it happen. He emphatically stated it twice for emphasis, that he will not let the end times take place in the Middle East. Who is Donald Trump to tell God that his prophets are wrong and that his word will not happen the way it said it was to happen? Now, I know some of you out there may not know the scriptures or may not understand what I'm even talking about, but I'm just talking about the hubris of Trump himself, his mindset, his arrogance, his pride, his ego, and his desire to be like God. Why would he claim to have eternal peace? Why would he even use the word eternal? And he's done this on a number of occasions. This isn't just one-off misspeak. He's talking about eternal peace. Why do you think the Jews gave him that little plaque that said he was the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace? Because they look at him as that fulfillment of that passage, which they know is in reference to their Messiah. Now, I'm not saying every Israeli thinks that Trump is the Messiah, but there is a very large segment of very conservative and religious Jews who believe that Trump fulfills messianic prophecies of a great world leader that would help facilitate the rebuilding of Jerusalem, or the temple, and the establishment of their state to secure that world dominant place in the latter day where the Messiah rules and reigns from their location. And it's very, you have to know a little bit about religion to kind of get this, but, and I've studied a lot, and I know a lot about things that are going on, not just political. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but I know enough to know how all these pieces are fitting, especially with Judaism and its history, and it intersects with, the revived Roman Empire that I believe the United States and the whole West represents, with the United States' dollar being dominant as the global, regulator of finance and global trade, and how we are just kind of in a place where we were untouchable for so long. I think now, it's like our kingdom has been weighed in the balance, and it's been found wanting. It's only a matter of time now. I mean, I'm hearing them getting closer through the subterranean, waterways coming up from the floor, just like they did during Belshazzar's. There's no way that Belshazzar could stop the prophecies of God from coming to pass. It ain't going to happen. We are a nation that's failing, and you can see it all around. Economically, it's now becoming very apparent to everybody. And Trump looks very haggard. If you look at Trump, he looks very gaunt. He can't stand up anymore. You notice that he's always sitting down. This is another observation. Trump never is really standing. He'll walk here and yon. He's got to get around. He's got to walk, but he's in a lot of pain. He's talked about having to stand too much, that he's been on his feet all day. He's been making excuses, but you'll notice that he's always sitting down now. Anytime you see him, he's sitting down. I don't think that people have seen him standing up for at least 2 months now. Anytime you see him, he's sitting down. And he also looks like he's fallen asleep. Now, they say he works a lot. I know he works a lot. He's a president. And he's got a war on his hands, that he's got a number of different fronts. But he's facilitating that with his big mouth. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have things to worry about and that we don't have enemies, in terms of enemy states that are wanting our, that are wanting to get us, because that's just where we've been. We've basically pumped ourselves up so hugely and dominated the globe for so long. There's this antipathy, there's this antagonism toward the U.S. And so we have enemies, obviously, that want to see our demise. And they're salivating at where we're at right at the moment. But what can we do about that as just an average person like you and I? Well, we can pray. And we can pray that in wrath, O Lord, remember mercy. We can pray for God's mercies in the midst of the judgments, because we are under judgment. And I believe the whole world is under judgment. I believe that the whole world is going into a time of a culmination of the latter-day judgments, that we're going to see these wars break out in the Middle East. I just don't think that one country is going to dominate. There may be a coalition of nations that do, as the Bible says, converge in the Middle East, which is looking like it's what's happening. And if something does go down bad here in America, I don't doubt that the elites will be fleeing to another safer area. They will not be here. And whatever is left of the United States will be divvied up. That's where I think it's going. But, that's just a doomsday and armchair analyst that's talking from a biblical point of view. You can take what I'm saying, for what it's worth, make your own conclusion. But I say pray and really analyze your environment, because just because you're secure doesn't mean the majority of those who surround you are. And they are the ones that you need to worry about. In any crap hit the fan scenario, the people that you need to worry about are the people that are hungry, that are all around you. It's not so much whether or not you got a secure location. Because everything can turn in a dime, especially if you're talking about internal conflicts. A nation divided against itself, or a people divided against itself, cannot stand. And we have a lot of polarization and division in every which way. Every which way. It is divided and divided again. It reminds me of Isaiah chapter 6. It says in Isaiah chapter 6, and Isaiah was a prophet. Obviously, he was a prophet of the Lord. And he saw the Lord high and lifted up, and he recognized he was a man of unclean lips. He said, I'm ruined. Woe is me. I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live amongst a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me and put a live coal in his hand and took it with the tongs from the altar. And then it says, with it he touched my mouth, and he said, see, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away from you. Your sin is atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. What was he doing? He was sending him to give the message of what was coming to the earth of his day. This was a heavenly vision that he received in a commission to go out. As a holy prophet, he still needed the touch of the Lord. And then he said, then the Lord said to him, go, tell this people, be ever hearing, but never understanding. Be ever seeing, but never perceiving. Make the heart of this people calloused. Make their ears dull and their eyes closed. Otherwise they might see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn and be healed. They would actually repent. They would actually get their lives straight. But the majority of people will not. And then I said, For how long, O Lord? How long will this go on? And he said, until the cities be ruined and without inhabitant, until the houses are left desolate and the fields are ruined and ravaged, until the Lord has sent away everyone far away into exile, and the land is utterly forsaken. And though a tenth remains in the land, it will again be laid waste. So it's going to be chopped down even farther than a tenth. But as the terebinth and the oak leave a stump when they are cut down, so will the holy seed be the stump in the land. The only ones that are going to be left are going to be the holy seed in the end. Just so you know. The majority, the wide gate, that many be that enter in there be. The wide gate that leads to destruction, that many there be that enter, will be left cut down. The stump, the narrow way that leads to life, it says very few be that find. That will be the only thing that's left, the stump. And I'm not just saying in the natural world. This might be something that is more referencing the eternal kingdom and the spiritual, a true salvation is what I'm talking about. Now, it may affect your physical world too. But this is why we call every man to repentance. So get connected to us, BP News. We also have an app. You can always go get that app and make sure you're connected to us in every way on social media. And make sure you get those push notifications and that you sign up for the text alerts. We did send a bunch of text alerts out. Not that many, but I want to know if anybody got a new text alert. Did anybody get a text alert that they weren't used to getting just recently, like in the last few hours? How many of you guys got the text alert? And I'm not just talking about the text alert that you signed up for. There are people that didn't sign up for text alerts at this very time in the last few weeks. But I had a list from years ago that I added. I want to know if there's anybody that got a text that never signed up for a text alert. You don't even know our channel. You just got here. I'm kind of wondering if the text alert actually went out or if it's going out later. If anybody out there got a text alert that they never signed up for, and this is the first time you're seeing BP News in a long time. We used to be Trumpet News. You probably signed up under the the channel would have been Trumpet News. If you remember that channel from back in 2021, going all the way back to 2017, some of you guys might have been on that list. And I added about 1,000 names, and I'm just wondering if there's anybody here that got that text, because we're trying to troubleshoot it right now. But anyways, we're going to be sending out more text, so you guys stay tuned. God bless, and keep on the up and up here. Let me see if there's anybody in the chat here that is interacting with me here. Molly, how's it going? Kathleen, you got the text, Kathleen. Now, Kathleen Gills, was this a text that you signed up for, or was this just random and that you're not even familiar with our channel? I want to know who's here that is not familiar with our channel normally. I want to see if we got any new people here. Anybody here that's new? Anybody here that's a new person that hasn't been to the channel in a while? Jeffrey J., good to see you, brother. How's it going, bro? just going to wait here for just a minute. We may go back live again later, and I'm just going to go see if this thing is really working or not. We're going to just go full board on one of these text alerts. I want a bunch of people in here as soon as possible. Now, we got to wait till some bigger event goes down. But even then, if it doesn't work, it's just, that's why I want to kind of test it before, make sure it's all good. Treasure, good to see you, Treasure. Molly, good to see you. Ven Comp, David Craig. Who else is in the house? Josh, Wendy, Jose. What do you guys think? How do you think we're getting closer with all this information that I provided tonight, especially that letter? Do you think that this is a preparation for the American public and the people to be prepared for war? You think that's what they're doing? And if the war does break out with Venezuela, do you think that Russia and China are going to do something about it? Do you think that Venezuela, if it's true that they have sleeper cells all throughout the United States, not to mention Hezbollah and everybody else, do you think they're going to activate them within our country? What do you think is going to happen? What's your thought about what potentially could go down if this war breaks out? I think that this is basically like trying to sell America. The timing of this letter to me is very suspect because I'm starting to see all this activity and then this letter pops out of nowhere. And that's telling me something, that I think that we're getting very close to something going down. Josh says, bring it. And I don't know if we really want that to happen because it's going to be complete chaos. It's all coordinated, yes. I think you're right, Doman Canty. I think something wicked this way cometh. I think you're right, Albert. I think you're right. And I've said that phrase before on our Telegram. Not too long ago, I said the same thing. I think something wicked this way is coming. It says something wicked this way cometh. Yeah. It's not going to be good for us old folks. Yeah, well, as long as we take care of each other and you have some community that's around you, make sure you get connected to a good, group of people that can kind of watch out for you, watch your back, and work together. Make sure you have like a little plan. I think it's a very important thing to have a plan. Try to find a place that's out of the way, that's not too congested. Have a plan to kind of get out of Dodge if things do get bad. If you see things really starting to degenerate and you start to see things happening in your area, that you have a place to go. You got to be able to get as far away from trouble as you can. The Bible says, the wise see trouble coming and they get out of the way. But the foolish, they keep on going. They don't even, they're looking at their iPhone. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. And then they get run over by a train. It's like walking on the train tracks with the iPhone and your earplugs in your ear. All the while the train's coming. Ooh, ooh, you didn't even see it coming. I try to make sure everybody's looking. It's like that song in the 60s. Hey, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. We got to be looking around here, finding out what's going down. Otherwise, you're going to be run down. Be aware of your environment. I always tell people that if you don't look around, you can become a statistic very easy because you got to be aware of your environment. People are looking for people that don't scan the horizon. Like if you're seeing something around you, there's a really good video I saw that not too long ago where this gal, these people were waiting out for her to come in, and she was coming up to her porch, and this gang jumps out of the car. She was looking at her cell phone, but she had the foresight to look up. I don't know what it was, an instinct. She looks up, she sees them get out of the car. As they're getting out of the car, she realizes, she runs to her house, Now, if she would have been 2 seconds or 3 seconds longer, they would have gotten her. She had enough time to get to her house and lock the door, right? But if she would have been continually unaware of her environment, those guys would have been, within 5 seconds, they would have been on her, and they would have kidnapped her. But she was smart enough to have looked and then ran. She saw and then she ran. So the same thing with you. If you're seeing something, you need to prepare yourself for action. Don't be a sleepy person. Don't be someone that's unaware. Understand what you're looking at. And don't just sit there and, well, I don't really know. Well, study it. Analyze it. Pray. Ask God. Give me understanding. Give me wisdom. What am I supposed to do with this? And so it's important. And by the way, somebody said if she's armed, she could have blasted them. Well, you know what? That's not even good either, because there's 3 or 4 of them coming at you. If you only have one shot off, the other 3 can jump on you. Unless they're so afraid of a gun going off, but sometimes people don't even care. Toasted says, I'm on a YouTube tag. Your channel is one of my text uploads. What do you mean by a text upload? I'm not sure what that means. I don't know what a text upload is. Just what other questions you guys have or comments in the text chats there? There's a movie on YouTube. It's one of the recent Red Dawns. It's the newest one, the old one back in the day, the Red Dawn. And I guess it's free. I was kind of looking at it a little bit, just taking a little watch on it. It's a free movie. It's called Red Dawn, right? I think it was 2012. The original Red Dawn was 2084, but the Red Dawn of 2012, it was free when I saw it. Here, let me see. Is this it? Yeah, I think this is it. Nope, this isn't it. It's just a movie clip, but somebody had uploaded the whole movie, and I could have swore it was right here. I guess it's not here. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah. So it's got 3.3 million views 2 years ago, Hollywood English Collections. But it shows the scenario of a Russian invasion into the United States. And the original movie was 1984, but this was a remake in 2012. But here's the movie if you want to kind of get a feel for what potentially could happen. I don't know if it would be like that, but I think there would be a lot more high-tech type of weapons, more drones, more. I don't think you'd see as many paratroopers. I think you'd see drones softening up everything, and I think what would happen before an invasion is they'd let everybody just kind of eat each other first, like destroy it. What it would be is they would let us tenderize. Tenderize. Let's just let it just, happen where they get hungry and everybody eats each other, and then we'll go in after everything is just said and done, and we've let America tenderize. And then we'll go in and then they'll take over. I think that's going to be more of the way it's going to go down. Super Dave says, you were third in YouTube Premiere level on my page. You had someone else are suspected by an ad. What? You and someone else are superseded by an ad. The original one was better? Yeah. That's usually the way it is. Shaun of the Dead? What is Shaun? Is that a movie? Yeah, I don't think there will be any warnings either. I think it's going to go down. I don't think it's going to be just an utter, I don't know though. Some of the scenarios that I've looked at, it could involve nuclear. And it would be more so on certain parts of the country that are more populated with military type stuff and infrastructure that's critical, and that would kind of bring us into submission very quickly. I don't think they're going to just blanket the whole country with nukes. I think it's just going to be kind of strategic. But Dmitry Duduman saw certain things, and so did A.A. Allen. And, I've heard different prophecies that seem kind of similar, that are contemporary prophecies for America. We'll see if those are even anywhere close to being true. But we just keep praying, guys. Hi, Greek Goddess. Good to see you. So I never did hear back from anybody in the audience. Is there anybody here that's listening to me right now? You just get into the chat room and type in the chat. I got your alert for the first time, and I never signed up, but I did accept it. And this is the first time I've seen it. So, yeah, I'm here new. Say you're new. I want to see if you're new. How many new people are here? Are these just all the same old people that always watch me? I don't think there's anybody new here. I don't think that the alert went the way it did. Let's just see. Anybody? Yeah, Aaron's, you're making a quote. I think that's who you're talking about is Kim Clement. Am I right? Kim Clement? Is that who you're talking about, Aaron's? Well, in the Old Testament, the Lord sent a lying spirit into the mouth of the prophets for the purpose of deceiving the people. Now, did God author deception? And he's not the author of evil, but he allows people to become deceived by allowing them to hear a lying voice, by pulling back his own, by withholding his own grace and protection, and allowing them to be given over into the hand of the enemy. And they begin to hear a lie, and they believe it, and they think it's from the Lord. So in a sense, God did send a lying spirit by pulling back his own. He withdrew, and the enemy came in and took over the mouths of the prophets, because at a certain point, God restrained the evil. Even in the wayward prophets, God restrained evil out of their mouths. But at a certain point, he withholds all influences of his own spirit, and the devil comes in and takes over completely the mouths of these false prophets. And I will say false in the sense of they may have a semblance of orthodoxy or Christianity, because there's a lot of those on YouTube. They say a lot of right things. They say they're evangelicals, or they're charismatics, or they have a foundation of basic Christian theology in their background, but they're false prophets. They're people that are compromised, and they're speaking lies, and the enemy has come in, and you're going to probably see a lot more deception coming out of their mouths now than you've ever heard before. It's not just tainted and mixtures of truth and evil and spirit. The Spirit of the Lord might be kind of withholding this flood of wickedness, but I'm going to tell you what, the Lord's withdrawing from a lot of these people completely now. And this evil is going to take over. You're going to see a lot more divergence and a lot more clarity of who's approved and who's not. The rod of Aaron is going to bud, and the one that is of the Kohen, the ones that are rebellious, are going to fall right into pits. The ground is going to open up and swallow them. So you're going to see it very clearly. And then you're going to make the choice whom you're going to serve, which side you're going to be on. You're going to better choose wisely, because the ground's going to open up and swallow if you made the wrong choice. Amen. All right. God bless you guys. Just a little warning before all hell breaks loose. And I will be seeing you guys back on the flip side, and I may do another stream a little bit later. I don't know. If something definitely hits the fan, I will be back. God bless Aaron's, Droby, Teresa Valdez, Ephesians, good to see you. New Brunswick, Josh Lacey, Alan Davis. God bless all of you guys. Elizabeth, thank you guys for modding and taking care of the chat, and all of the subscribers in green. Keep up the subscribers, all of you out there. We're going to try to make a subscriber video here real soon. And all of you guys have a great night. You lurkers out there that are just watching in the shadows, God bless. Have a good afternoon.